Testing, testing. I don't know why I say testing. I can't see the sound signal. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I am lounging on my love sack, and yes, this is a pillow. Get over it. This girl I know, she's always like, get over it. Valley girls, the way they talk, get over it. I'm drinking Gnarly Head as usual, because my guy, he makes me great deals. He has like 30 cases of this Gnarly Head Merlot, which, by the way, I prefer the Cab Sauv to the Merlot, but not by much, by a very small amount. The Pinot is garbage. Yeah, Gnarly Head doesn't know how to, they don't know what to do with those grapes. The Merlot is not bad. Not bad at all, extremely drinkable. This one happens to be the 2015, and it's their black label. So, they charge, it says here $8, but he gave it to me for, $6, which is, $8 is a great price. Vaughn's, when they have it, charges like $10.99, so I'm literally getting it for half price, buying from a convenience store. And how cool is that? Is that COVID, or what is that? Like, are people not drinking high quality? In my opinion, I mean, it's a 15%er, so, you know, it's high quality in terms of the ABV, but it's also really tasty and very palatable to me. So what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of this is the kind of video that I really, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I don't like to be negative. I have a lot of friends. Oh, my disc is spinning around I'm listening to the Pixies. Listen to this. I should just have this in the background at like a low volume. Keep the Pixies going, but then I'll get into copyright stuff, so then they'll pull my video just because there's a Pixie song playing in the background. Even that was like, 7 seconds, they'll probably pull it. No, how dare you use 7 seconds from Bossa Nova in one of your videos, make money off of us. As if that, first of all, like I'm making money, and second of all, like, that's the reason why everybody's watching a 30-minute video from me, is to hear 7 seconds of an album that came out in 1990. Was it 90 or 91, Bossa Nova? I know it came out after Surfer Rosa, which was 88? Probably 80. It could have been 89, but I think it was 1990. Geffen Records. Yeah, don't mess with Geffen. Holy crap. Man, they will go after you. I'm surprised there aren't, like, people, like, smashing through the windows right now. Yeah, this is kind of an uncomfortable topic, which is why I've got my back pillow. Because I'm trying to make myself as comfortable as possible while I talk about a subject that's really not comfortable for a lot of people, which is acknowledging that you are you have a lot of talent, you have a lot of experience. I mean, if you don't recognize the fact that, okay, so Dunning-Kruger obviously is the concept where you don't know what... You don't understand what you don't understand, essentially. And the example I was given, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, is I was at a concert with my friend, and we were watching this band, Morchiba, a great band. And there's a guy in the band, I don't know if he's the original guitarist, or if it wasn't him. I don't think it was him. I don't know a ton about Morchiba, sorry. I don't know anything about Morchiba, to be honest. I've seen so many shows over the years, so many acts, that, I know a lot of their songs, like their songs are in my head, but I don't know a lot about the personnel behind the music. And, but anyway, session player or not, or just the live player, whereas the guy on the album is the main guy. Because originally the black woman who sings beautifully, I might add, and carried the whole set, she wasn't part of the band originally. They added her later. Yeah. So, but anyway, my friend, just to get back to the story, my friend, he was commenting on the guitar player, like playing some, he's not like shredding. And my friend's like, I could do that. By the way, my friend doesn't play guitar. He's never played guitar in his entire life. I don't play guitar. I studied jazz for 20 years, and woodwinds, oboe, like I could play double reeds, I could play saxophones, clarinets, but I don't know how to play guitar either. I know some piano, but I can't play guitar. I could pick up a guitar and mess around with it a little, tinker with it, but I can't, I couldn't even play the chords to, what's that one track that they say, just learn enough guitar to get laid, And then they always cite like that Oasis song, Wonderwall. I couldn't even play Wonderwall. That's how much I know about the guitar. Even though I have an advanced knowledge of music, my credentials are there. Let me put you that way. We can get more into that some other video. But suffice to say, he was just like, man, I don't understand how these guys make so much money and all they're doing is just basic, simple stuff. It's clear that my friend was a little bit bothered by the fact that the music just wasn't really exciting him. And that's fair. If it's just not working for you, then hey, man, that's your opinion. But don't say like you could do that. Don't say that you could stand up there on that stage and do what he's doing when you've never done it before. That is Dunning-Kruger. That's an example of it, because Dunning-Kruger is essentially not knowing how difficult something is because of how little you know about it. Simple concept. Don't fall into that bracket. But leading this, sort of moving the conversation forward, Dunning-Kruger affects your life in many negative ways. It's not helpful because it's essentially a form of lying to yourself, to tell yourself that you can do things but not actually pursue doing them. I don't need to learn how to do that. I could just do it if I wanted to. It kind of mirrors the whole addiction thing. Look at me. I'm drinking wine at 10 in the morning. What, you think I'm not going to call myself an alcoholic? What am I going to do? Lie to myself? Crap. I'm still destroying my body. That's not going to change, but at least I'm not lying to myself while I do it. Don't lie to yourself. Dunning-Kruger is a sophisticated way of convincing yourself that you are more knowledgeable about something than you really are. Then, when somebody points that out, you're unable to prove them wrong. So what you'll do is, what I've noticed, my friend that suffers from this in a way that, honestly, it's unfathomable. It's head explodey, to quote Jonan Vasquez, head explodey. What he does is when he doesn't know how to respond to something, he immediately whips out his phone and starts looking for YouTube. Now that is another form of rhetoric, which is escaping me at the moment, but it's a selective way of, it really bothers me that I actually can't think of it, but this is another phenomenon, suffice to say, where cognitive bias, it's called, cognitive bias. It's a form of cognitive bias, essentially, that you can, no matter what you think, you can find somebody who agrees with you, so then therefore you are probably right, or at least plausibly correct. Take flat earth, for example, the flat earth theory, the theory that the earth is a freaking pancake. Whereas every other celestial body we look at through telescopes is spherical. Somehow the earth is a pancake, and probably they take it even farther and say, like, they go back to like Galilean times or whatever, when people thought that the sun revolved around the earth and not the other way. But, they'll say like, oh, the moon landing's fake, and tinfoil hat stuff that's, ridiculous. And of course that person's gonna not want to be vaccinated against COVID because vaccines will implant a microchip in you, and who's behind the bushes? If I can't see what's behind the bushes, then there must be somebody back there. It turns into a really big, it turns into a dilemma, following these paths. Like every day, thousands of pictures of the earth are generated by companies like NASA, but they'll say like, oh no, that's all just to keep the 0.001% of society that actually cares about looking at, the universe and studying it. That's just to appease them so that they don't create some kind of cascade failure to convince all of society that, like, who cares? Like, if the Earth's flat or if the Earth's spherical, like, who really cares? Like, what difference does it make? But apparently it makes all the difference in the world to some people. And that's, that is Dunning-Kruger as well, because you're not an astronomer. My friend Kenny will say he'll be able to explain how the Earth is, flat because of, as he claims, trigonometry. But he never studied trigonometry. So he never studied it. He never got any farther than like just remedial math. So for him to be like, it can be easily explained with trigonometry, but you don't know what trigonometry is, bro. Maybe the Earth is flat. Who knows? Nothing can absolutely be determined. Maybe we're all living in a simulation and there is no Earth. Like Neo in the Matrix. There is no spoon. It's you that bends around the... Anything's possible. I'm open-minded. But I just don't see how you saying it's easily understandable that the earth is flat because of trigonometry that you don't understand. Meanwhile, you can't explain those formulas and calculations to me because you don't even know how to divide or use exponents properly. Like, come on, that's Dunning-Kruger. You don't know how much you don't know. And this is where I want to get to. The point that I'm trying to make is after I sip my wine like a smarmy, smug little douchebag, which is what my ex called me before she hung up on me, and we haven't spoken since. Smarmy, smug little douchebag. Okay, I guess so. Dunning-Kruger is sort of the foundation for being what is referred to, and this is an actual internet thing. This is a term. This is a hashtag term. The delusional artist. The delusional artist is a fascinating phenomenon. It has to do with concepts that I really, again, I always go into my videos blind. I don't even know like what I'm going to say. So I go into my videos completely blind, and the delusional artist is a phenomenon that can probably be psychologically explained through just the consensus. And I promise I'm going to stop using these 10-cent words. But there's a sort of a consensus in psychology that people delude themselves. And in every aspect of their lives, you delude yourself thinking that you can wash dishes because you wash the heck out of those dishes on the top of the dish, but you don't wash the bottom. I know I've lived with roommates who've bitched to me about this privately. They go, she always rinses and washes the top, but she never gets the bottom, and then she stacks them up, and there's still grime on the bottom, and then the bottom grime sticks to the top of the next dish under it, and so. Like, you can actually delude yourself about anything in your life. You could delude yourself about something as simple as being able to wash a dish. I think I washed the heck out of that dish, but you didn't rinse the bottom of it, and somebody else will point that out. And you'll be like, well, what the heck are you talking about? Who washes the bottom of the dish? I mean, you could delude yourself about wiping your own butt. You could take the toilet paper and just turn it into a big ball and use the ball to wipe your butt with. Ball. Whereas other people will neatly fold it and do a kind of a... And then other people will be, what are you doing? Bottom to top? You're not doing top to bottom? And look at this toilet paper roll. I mean, how come it's coming out from the back? When you take the toilet paper, it should come out from the front. I mean, every single aspect of your life you should question. You should wonder, am I doing this right? But there are some people that have, they have the ego, where they think, I guess you get to a certain age too. I mean, nobody is born innately with this ego, but at a certain age, it might be 7. Heck, it might be 3. I don't know. But it might be 7. It might be 17. It might be 22. It might be 40. At a certain point, you reach a stage with your ego where you kind of think that you've perfected life. Like, I've been down this road so many times that I know everything about that road. And let me tell you something. I have lived, for example, in Simi Valley for a quarter of a century. I'm 30 something. I don't like to reveal my age necessarily all the time. I'm in my very early 30s. Let me put you that way. And I have driven down the same stretch of Los Angeles Avenue thousands of times. And yet, for example, just 3 months ago, I ran a red light. Now, why did I run a red light on a street that I've driven down thousands and thousands of times since I was a 16-year-old? How is that possible? I could have hurt somebody. What if there were a pedestrian? What if a car was... accident happens. Because you get so comfortable with yourself that you think that it's impossible for anything to happen that's not within your sort of frame of reference of understanding. And I know that probably you could break that sentence down and point out all the ways in which it doesn't make sense, but the intent behind it is to show you that your comfort with your abilities is misguided. You should never be comfortable with your abilities because you're always capable of creating errors, making mistakes, losing sight of the information that you've gathered. And my father actually pointed it out to me when I was young, and this is continuing the driving reference. He said, you're probably going to make most of your driving errors when you start to get comfortable because you'll start to get comfortable, but you won't have the experience. A brand new driver, somebody who just got their driver's license, is driving like, it's all brand new. Like, oh my God, there's so many things happening, and all these new aspects of reality, or all this whole the spectrum of reality, as Louis C.K. says, is now unfolding around you, and you need to be adaptable to it. But then you start to get comfortable. And similarly, I have a friend who is a delusional artist. And no, this is not me. I'm not a delusional artist. I am an actual artist. This is not something that I question about myself. Of course, I always question myself and am my harshest critic, but I don't believe that I'm a delusional artist. And I don't think very many people who have seen my art or witnessed it or experienced it or critiqued and commented it would call me a delusional artist, because they know how hard I am on myself. The problem is that people who claim to be artists are not hard on themselves, despite the fact that they don't have the expertise, experience, natural born skill to be able to be the person that in their mind they think that they are. That makes them delusional. That doesn't mean that they can't be an artist. They need to play to their strengths. Not everybody's a Mozart. Not everybody is so naturally gifted and talented that they're essentially what do they call it? Like Rain Man? Not autistic, but a savant, like a savant. Sometimes in the case of Rain Man, you've got an idiot savant. I actually have a cousin, not by blood, but not that matters. But I have a cousin who's a idiot savant. He's highly autistic and not functional. He can't function in society. He can't operate vehicles or hold a job or anything like that. He's not at that level where he can be employed, for example. But you could ask him like crazy sports questions, or like, what day was it, June 13th, 1922, and he'll immediately be like, Wednesday, or some crazy stuff like that, like some crazy savant stuff he's got in his brain. It's just like, to him, it's just like simple, because he knows like all the different patterns. It's like clear, like, well, then that would be that, and it's like a simple calculation. It's like, what's 11 minus 6? Oh, 5. Which is amazing. The human brain is incredible. That's why I think that society kind of gravitates towards these superhero stories, because we all feel like deep down we could be superheroes. I think that's why Deadpool's so popular, because Deadpool was just an awesome dude before they injected him with that stuff, and it was like, two things are going to happen. One of two things: you're going to die, or you're going to mutate, because you're pushed to this extreme. He mutated. Great heroic story. But we kind of have in our minds that, like, a lot of people sort of live. This is going to sound a little bit cliche, but a lot of people sort of live their lives like they're the top billing lead actor in a film that stars them, and everybody else are supporting characters, and they're just so great. But you're not great, and so when they get beat down, they think, well, this is the part of the movie where I get beat down. Listen to me. Your life is not a movie. You're not an actor in a film that people are watching. You're just you. So just do your thing and make your money and be successful, and I guess get married and raise a family if that's what you're into. Personally, for me, it's not a particularly interesting aspect of reality that I wish to pursue. But hey, you do you, man. Be you, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't be you. At the same time, don't front like you're an authority. And here's where we get into the problem. This is the meat of the issue. The problem is that there are people out there that front like they're an authority, and that's something that actually I object to strongly. I don't like when people front like they're an authority. If you call yourself an artist, then you're an artist. If I call myself a stenographer, then I guess I'm a stenographer. But when I go and apply for the job and to be a stenographer, there's probably going to be somebody else who's going to be able to type a lot faster than me, and they're going to get the job. So you call yourself an artist because you're an artist. But when you go and apply for the art position that doesn't exist, there's nobody else applying because there is no position. I mean, don't get me wrong, the world needs artists, and there are artists that make a living. Like, who's that guy that does all the Stedman, Ralph Steadman? I mean, there's an artist. That's a modern artist that makes his living. He's got a great, unique style, and he's fascinating, and he's got wonderful personality as well, and his art is inspiring and clever, and he even adds political, there's a political facet to it as well, which demonstrates that he's not just great at putting ink on the paper, but he can also sort of ink your mind in a little bit of a way. He can change your perspective on reality in a little bit of a way, and that's Ralph Steadman. That is an artist. You are not Ralph Steadman. I sound like Bill Cosby. Just like, you are not Ralph Steadman. Now eat this pudding. Yeah, you're not Ralph Steadman. You're not a great artist. You haven't done anything great, but you lie to yourself and try to convince yourself that everything that you do is great. But the problem is, and this is why I love The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, not just because of the book itself, but because of the man who wrote it. Constantly questioning, constantly trying to re-envision his own visions and figure out all the different ways in which people would perceive his work. What the heck just happened? Did I knock something over? Once you get to know F. Scott, you know how tortured he was, because he was always reevaluating things and rewriting things and trying to perfect and craft. And it shows in his final product. Meanwhile, there's this delusional artist that I know, and she made like a Facebook post where it was like, if you want to learn how to write, if you want to know how to be poetic, if you want to know how to create content with your words and thoughts, hire me. I'm here for you. I'm here to teach. She's not a teacher, because the output that she provides, it shouldn't even have the basics down. For example, she doesn't know what a semicolon is. She uses semicolons like who's that painter? Jackson Pollock. Like when he paints, he just like gets all the paints and he just starts splashing them everywhere. Granted, Jackson Pollock is a freaking, you can't question the fact that Jackson Pollock is one of the most prolific and profound artists of the modern generation. Even though he wasn't fully appreciated in his time, there were enough people that believed in his vision, and some of his paintings are amongst the most valuable ever made. I believe his number 5, for example, is like the 5th most expensive painting ever sold. Now, we can get into the art world another time, the world of painters and Andy Warhol's vision for what art was and how ironic everything was in that regard. We could talk about that another time when I actually study and meditate on it a bit so that I'm a little more prepared. But suffice to say, this woman is fronting like she is an authority, and she's not. And it's a front, and it's pathetic to me. It's really sad that she's like, I have 4 published books. It's like, on what platform? Well, who published them? Who is the publisher of your 4 books? Well, I uploaded them to Amazon. Oh, so you did. I could probably upload 1,000 of my, books, let's say. And then I would say, well, I have 1,000 published books. So what is that? That's delusional right away. And then, who's read them? What revenue have you generated from them? Are there any critical reviews or evaluations from, let's say, authorities? Let's say, critical evaluations, or perhaps just teachers. Professors, college level, Yale, Harvard. Who's read your work and then has provided an evaluation of it? Nobody. And how many copies, I guess, have you sold? How many digital downloads? Well, a few to my friends, and it goes on. And then you examine the work itself on its own merits, because screw the critics, screw the fans, screw the family, screw Yale, screw Harvard, screw everything, screw it all. Turn it all into a nail and hammer it down into a coffin that you kick with a giant boot into the sun. Who cares about anything? Let's look at the work itself. And it doesn't hold up because you're a delusional artist, because you don't know how to be critical of yourself in order to better yourself. You think that every thought that flutters into your little brain is it's a supernova. But a supernova is just the result of a star that implodes. A supernova is the result of a dying star. You are exploding out of your own death because you don't understand all the little nuances, all the little devices, poetic devices, for example. And I could start naming names. I could be like synecdoche and illusion and which is not illusion, illusion, synecdoche, metonymy, all the little devices. I explained to somebody in a poetic workshop once because we were arguing a little bit about how, none of these great poets are thinking about these things while they're writing them. And that's true. I agreed. I said they're not thinking about them because of how well they understand them. And then I think I quoted, I don't know what I quoted. Is it Lost? Maybe it's something that somebody wrote in Lost as something, but they said maybe before you try to go reinventing the wheel, you should learn how to draw a circle. All these people with these big thoughts in their heads, like they've got so much to prove. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. You have everything to prove to yourself. You need to take a long, hard look at your abilities and recognize your shortcomings, your weaknesses, and figure out how to build them. Stop looking at what you're capable of doing and focus more on what you're not quite measuring up to. Treat your art not just as I'll splash everything, because Jackson Pollock would splash things on canvas and he would look at it and he would reject it all the time. Your art is a measurement of your craft. Arts and crafts is something that happens when you're really young. They're like, it's time for arts and crafts. Well, when you're older, there is no art without the craft. You need to craft your art. You need to recognize how it doesn't measure up. And when I see improper use of semicolons, excessive sentences that could be combined for better effect, lack of an understanding of how to generate an emotional response in a reader, trying to be overtly profound, but also being, I hate to use this word because it is such itself, but cliche. You're saying things, people judging people with people, she literally has a sentence where it's like, and it sounds like something out of Seinfeld, the Human Fund, people helping people helping people is a line in one of her poems. And it's like, man, this is like a horror. This is like, if somebody in a comedic show were to read this, everybody would laugh at you. Everybody is laughing at you. I'm laughing at you. But you're surrounding yourselves with people. You're surrounding yourselves. I use it plural, but I'm just referring to one particular person. You're surrounding yourself with people who are just like, that's awesome. How cool. Because you understand a lot more about your craft than they do. But that doesn't make you an authority or an expert in your craft. Just because people are like, hey, you're really cool, and you're my friend, and we go way back, and anything that you write, I'm going to be like, stamp of approval, but then somebody like me, who's actually like, well, that is a misspelling. You didn't spell that word correctly, or that is a typo, there's an apostrophe there that shouldn't be, you did it's with an apostrophe instead of its, it should have been, because of the possessive, you didn't, the basic stuff. And that's just the basic stuff. Let me get into the more advanced stuff. Like, well, how do you think somebody's going to respond to this when you use this so many times? And why are you doing this that way? And I know at this point I'm just spouting platitudes and being extremely vague, but I can point to, we can go over it in several levels. Like we can level your poem. Let's say your poem is like a level 3. And just by doing some grammar stuff, we can pull it up to like a level 5. And then we can start doing a deep dive into it and be like, well, here's this word again. And that word came up 6 lines ago. And perhaps we could combine these 2 sentences. And maybe there's not a need to split the line that way because visually it's going to pack a little bit more of a punch if you take this line and you take that word and you move it down 1 level to this line. And then it's going to... And then we could talk about a little bit about blank verse, or we could talk about like syllable counts. I mean, maybe we could get really advanced with this, but instead you're just like, everything I do is great. Everything I do is amazing. I'm super special and I'm one of the best. And I've published 4 books and even though nobody's bought them, they'll buy my next one. And you're just, I mean, maybe they will, and maybe you are great and amazing, but I don't see it. I see potential, but I also see a lot of ego, and it makes me cynical towards you because, speaking for myself, I, don't have an ego, and you probably think the exact opposite. You probably think, oh, he has the biggest ego of all. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I love being my harshest critic. If anyone criticizes me, I adore it, and I take it to heart, and I cherish criticism. You are disgusted by criticism and think that everything about you is great. So who really has the big ego here between the two of us? Definitely not me. And we need to work on that right away.